Leaving my kids and husband to move abroad. Yeah, that's what this is about today. So I think this is really interesting. So this is actually a post that I read in a Facebook group that I'm a member of, and it's a post that stirred up a lot of controversy, as maybe you can imagine, because it's about a married woman who is planning to move abroad despite having kids and a husband who would stay at home. So I'm going to read the post and then we can talk about it. There's a lot to go through. And I'm not sure if you'll agree with my take. I think maybe you will. I don't know. I'm not really an extremist. Some people are like, oh my God. Okay, but let's slow down. Maybe you're one of the people. Maybe this is just selfishness at its worst, which is what a lot of people think. Or maybe this is just some honesty about someone saying what they need. So let's hear what she has to say. We'll talk about which one we think it is. And I think I have an idea for a path to go forward. So, leaving my kids and husband, be nice. For years, I've had this dream of moving to Asia. Sunshine, slower pace, affordable living. You get it. But my family said, let's wait until the oldest son graduates first. Cool. I respected that. The plan was still alive. Fast forward, my youngest daughter says she'd then rather stay in Georgia with family so she could be with her friends. And to my surprise, my husband agreed. He said it would just be him and I that moved to Asia, basically living the retired or empty nester life a little early. We set the clock for 2 years out, and I thought we were really about to make this dream happen. Now, here's the twist. My husband switched it up on me. He's saying he doesn't want to miss out on teaching our daughter how to drive, sending her off to homecoming, and all those father-daughter milestones. And listen, I get it. As a black dad, that bond with his baby girl is priceless. But for me, this move isn't just about geography. It's about finally giving myself permission to live my dream. And let's be clear. We are happily married. We don't argue. He spoils me. And honestly, he's the best man ever. I know how blessed I am. But this isn't about problems in our marriage. It's about me wrestling with a dream I've carried for years. I've put mom and wife first for years, and I'm proud of that, but it's not all I am. Preparing for this move pulled me out of some dark mental health spaces, and now I feel like if I let it go, I'll lose that spark. Here's where we stand. My husband is willing to stay in Georgia with our daughter while I slow travel Asia, while visit home every few months, or have them come see me. Bless his heart, he's supporting me even though this is not his dream. But I can't lie, after having him by my side for so long, the thought of doing this without him is scary. So, I'm just curious, has anyone out here ever gone after their expat dream while married with kids, or even thought about it? How did you make it work? I'd love to hear from people who are living this, planning it, or even just daydreaming about it. Sending love and positive vibes to anyone chasing their version of freedom. Okay, so there's a lot in there. So let's talk about what she kind of broke down in there. I've read it more than once, but it sounds like they have 2 children. One is older, one's younger, at least 2. There could be another one in the middle. They were initially planning to wait until just the first one left the house, and so they were going to travel with the younger child. Then the younger child said that they don't want to go. So then the husband said that it would just be the husband and the wife that traveled and moved abroad and left their kid back with family. But now the newest iteration is the husband has decided he's not actually comfortable with that plan. And so it would just be the wife who moves abroad and the husband stays back with the child. So what's fascinating to me is that there was ever a plan for the parents to move abroad without the child. That is the part that really kind of throws me for a loop. More than even this current iteration. But let's just assume that they had some plan. I'm not going to dive too deeply into that because it's not even the reality of what's happening right now. But that is the one that seems the most perplexing to me. But okay, so we have a married woman who the husband is okay with potentially her going abroad. A lot of people in the comments were calling the woman selfish. We're saying that they're going to give the daughter, she's going to give the daughter abandonment issues if she does this. But here's the thing. So I think all of these concerns are, of course, valid. But I also think the woman discussing her burnout is valid, right? And discussing the want and the need to put herself first. I think so often we've just been trained to compromise. We're just so accustomed to not getting what we want in life. And I think we really, as a people, can do better if we become a little bit more goal oriented and more problem solving oriented. Like, what is the problem? Like, what needs do I really need met? And how can I achieve that goal? And I would wonder if she can achieve her goal of maybe, I'm guessing, right? I haven't talked to her in real life, but it sounds like she needs some freedom. She wants some independence. I don't even know if she wants independence because she wanted to go with her husband. But she certainly wants a change, right? She wants a change of scenery. She wants kind of to step into a new space. I can understand that. I've done the travel abroad thing. I still live abroad. I'm an American. I live in France. And I've done the whole travel in Asia thing, which is amazing. But I do think sometimes we also glamorize it, right? Because my first weeks in Asia were really difficult. Like, my first days in Thailand, I literally got scammed by a tuk-tuk driver and catfished by my first hotel that I stayed at. I was like a wreck when I first landed. And even once I was more of a seasoned traveler, you can still have really tough times and things like that come up. But so with the problem solving, with everything that's going on, for me, what I would think is that there's a sort of a middle ground, sort of a solution that might meet everyone's needs. Like, can she, instead of moving abroad, moving to Asia without her family, because that is a big commitment. There was no talk about money, finances, or the need to work. So I'm not going to think too much about that. I'm going to maybe guess that their finances are such that she doesn't need to work, or she's going to work minimally online. I'm not going to give much attention to that since it wasn't in the post. But I would think that even if working isn't a concern or something like that, she could still dip her toe into the living abroad thing just with a long trip, right? 3 weeks, a month, of just, hey, why not? How would you feel about just taking a trip to Asia? Because a whole move abroad is really, it's a lot. And it's a lot, especially when you are married, when you do have a child. I don't think it's something that is so easy to do. There is the emotional component. She sounds like she is in a loving relationship. I would think that she would miss her partner and family, possibly even more than she is anticipating. She did mention the plan of being abroad for several months, but then coming home. I'm not sure how long she's talking about being at home versus being away, right? Like, is it equal amounts of time? Like, is it 3 months at home, 3 months away? So that's not really specified, right? But what I would think might be a good problem solve, right, is to see how she felt about just taking a trip, right? Pressure free, just taking a trip for a few weeks, going somewhere and seeing if she feels renewed, or, to see what else is going on. Because a lot of times, there's not just one thing that's going on, but I think it's important to not just deny ourselves, right? Like, for some of the people in the comments who are like, well, once you've had kids, you sort of lose your chance at sort of having a life. It's like, oh my gosh, does it really have to be that way, right? Like, of course, I think once people decide to have children become a priority. But does that priority have to be at the expense of themselves? Like, at the expense of their mental health, right? Or can we find a solution where everybody comes out on top? Like, that's the kind of stuff I like to think about, right? Not just compromise and stay home and be miserable, or move away from your family and never see them again. I'm joking, that wasn't her scenario, right? But even with her scenario, it doesn't have to be necessarily that she's moving abroad, right? And she doesn't have to think of it that way. It doesn't have to be that that's what's happening. Are there other solutions? Is there the possibility of just like taking a trip, going away for a little while, like some other thing? Or some people, of course, talked about, what about just waiting a little bit, right? Can she take a few trips maybe on her own and wait to move abroad until, her children are all the way out of the house? We don't know how old they are. She did not specify the age. But if the husband was talking about not wanting to miss teaching the daughter how to drive and some of these things like taking her to homecoming, I'm thinking this sounds like this is a teenager, right? Or at least, I mean, you wouldn't be talking about that. This was like a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old, right? So that's what it sounds like. So it's like, okay, can you do something to hold yourself over? Not so that you're just in a holding pattern with no forward progress, right? And so, because if you're really considering a move abroad, I would also think that that means you do have the money for it. So if you have the money to just move abroad, then that means you have the money to go on some trips, right? Without the pressure, without it. And listen, it is cheaper in a way to move abroad because, right, it's different booking an Airbnb for one night versus booking an apartment for a month. So that's why I even said, could you go somewhere for a month, right? Could she do that? Because then you do still get like sort of a discount, right? You can pay for things in sort of at a monthly rate as opposed to like a day rate, which is different. But so that's what I think. I think that I'm not a big fan of compromising. I'm not a big fan of putting yourself last all the time, but I am a big fan of creative problem solving. And sometimes the solutions that you see in front of you are not the best solutions that would serve all of your needs. So, curious what you guys think about this, what you think about, the whole idea of moving abroad without your family. What would you recommend? What do you think? Would you do it? I'm a big fan of solo travel, even while married. Some people think it's just an excuse for cheating. I definitely don't see it that way. People will cheat at home. People will cheat in their own zip code. Nobody needs to travel to a whole nother country if they want to cheat, right? Cheaters are cheaters and loyal people are loyal. So that's how I feel about that. I don't see it as like some excuse to cheat on your family and do all this stuff. So I don't know. I'm curious what you guys think. If you would do it, how you would problem solve in this situation, or if you would just suppress your needs and wait it out. So anyway, leave me a comment. Let me know what you're thinking.